25 en de mannen onder de 23 jaar zijn onderweg met daaronder de Nederlands crosskampioen Ruben Samson.
They'll have to go first between his 91 and then the 5 big laps of 1875 meters.
En de marathons. En ik heb zin om hier te lopen. Ruben Samson dus gaat al meteen naar voren van Atletiek Maastricht. Mannen laten er geen gras over groeien. Gaan meteen volle bak vertrekken hier zo voor de eerste groene ronde. En we lopen dus om en bij de 10 kilometer. We hebben een parcoursrecord. Dat staat op naam van Wilson Cheral uit Kenia. Liep dit al in 2001. 29.04. 29.04. Razendsnel. Maar door de dalen we nog met guldens volgens mij. Daar komen de voorfietsers aan. Daar komen de voorfietsers en krijgen we de eerste passage hier onder uw applaus. We komen een plaatsje hier langs de kant en begeleiden de lopers in hun rondes hier op het mooie parcours. En we hebben een leider aangekomen van de wedstrijd. Wie komt er hier als eerste voorbij? En wie krijgt als eerste het applaus? Jesse Fokkerrood gaat hier meteen
2000, that was a former world record on 5,000 miles. Richard Ringer, who won that European Marathon title in Munich in 2022, the German, he won here in 2015. And the man behind Cooper, Richard, won here in 2018. He was the European champion at 10,000 meters in Munich and half marathon champion last year in Rome in front of the home crowd. Complete pace here, and the one athlete is away from the rest. He's bouncing along, looking very comfortable indeed. That's about 25-meter lead after just a couple of minutes on the clock. Jesse Fokkerrood is hier geen onbekende. Hij is de houder van het parcoursrecord bij de mannen onder 23. Liep niet al eens 29:33. En krijgt u nog eens even mee naar de prachtige slow motion deel van de start met This is 106. It's Jesse Fokkerrood. He's the 23-year-old who was 8th last year, who got very fast. He took lead in the early stages. Usually takes a few hundred meters to get into the running, to get into the nice rhythm for to sort itself out in the early stages. Quite a few twists and turns on this circuit, and it's not a bad idea to get out in front and have a clear run at the corners. The last thing we want is twists and turns and some undulations with a tightly knit pack, and then be surprised when one-to-one the turns come at you. The best line in a cross-country race, whether it's over mounds and hills and undulations or twists and turns, or indeed rough ground. Have a look at some of the starters here. Ruben Samson was amongst the favourites, the Maastricht athlete. He was 7th here last year. Abdelrahman Mohamed
was Laros last year, and he was 12th course world. We're going through the full field here, and as I said, the qualifying standard 29:15 for 10k is very high indeed, so this is indeed an elite race, but the vast majority of those running are Dutch, of course. The race does incorporate the Dutch cross-country championships, and with those European cross-country championships in Lagoa, in the Algarve, down in Portugal, southern Portugal, just 2 weeks away. Athletes here today running well can be selected for their national team. They can influence selectors, not just the Dutch athlete, but one or two others as well. But Fokkerrood has pushed on very early here. The race should take about 29 minutes, half an hour, as I say. That championship record, a course record, is 29:04, and that goes back last year, 10th the previous year in 2023, and 11th in 2022. So he knows this course really well. He is a regular at this race, and he ran in Cardiff in the UK, down in South Wales, 3 weeks ago, where he finished in 8th place. So I always used to find myself that running a series of races brings you to a good crescendo, a good sort of climax of form. And he's got good speed too. That might be why he's found it pretty easy to ease away in the first half of this race. He's a 3:58 miler. He's run 3:37 for 1,500 metres, has Fockenrud. And he's got pretty good strength too. So he's maintaining that lead. If anything, it's probably a bit longer now. It's probably, about 30 or 40 metres ahead of that pack of, 10 or 15 that are chasing hard. And you lay out your stall like this early on, you've got to be very, very confident of your form. And what Fockenrud has got to do here is run smart. Now he's built up this lead of a few seconds. What he's got to do is gauge his effort very carefully throughout the whole race. And when they start closing on him, he'll know they've been working a bit harder, so he can get a breather. And then he's got to start pushing on. 12.005 is in second place. That's Sander Verkouteren, the Belgian, who's a 13:53 5,000 metre runner. He just run 48.38 for 10 miles. Was 37th in the Lille 10K in 29.45 2 weeks ago. So Verkouteren in the black, leading that chasing pack. He's in third place at the moment. No, that is him, sorry, in the green. Verkouteren, 12.005. Frank Futselaar is also amongst the leaders. The 34-year-old Dutchman. 3 times Dutch champion. He was 12th here last year, 11th back in 2023. So he's another athlete that knows this course. I think I've got a glimpse of Mohammed there, back in about 7th or 8th place. The Brit, one of 2 Brits racing here. The other one is Thomas Dulgre from Harrow AC and Cambridge University. Is Fockenrud out in front by about 30 or 40 metres. And then there's a pack of about 8 or 9 there, chasing hard. Now, if Fockenrud runs smart, he can maintain this gap, and that pack will, if he can just widen that gap by another 20 or 30 metres, they might start watching each other rather than concentrating hard on him. 1, 2, 4 we just saw there. That is Gianluca Assogia, 31-year-old Dutchman, not amongst the favourites on my paperwork, but races like this, well, we're only 8 minutes into it. We're expecting a winning time of around, in these really good conditions, I'd have thought around 29 minutes, 29:30, something like that. I mean, it's so good underfoot, as you can see. It's almost a road race, in effect. You could probably get away with running in flats, road racing shoes on a surface like this, on a day like this. This men's gala race, of course, includes the under-23 athletes. And Robin van Riel is very much amongst the favourites in the under-23 race. It is a lovely morning and a great course for spectators, this. You can stroll around the circuit, perhaps cut across the middle. The forested area they're running through, the Oude Veranda, is organised in a sort of star shape. It's known as a sterrenbos, which is a star forest. This means that the paths are laid out in geometrically, with 8 of them forming a star shape from a central point and running out to one of the 4 sides, which effectively make a squared perimeter of the forest. It's one of the very few in Europe. The geometrical pattern was inspired by the Baroque French garden style and is therefore similar in some respects to the gardens and forest around the Paris of Versailles, just outside Paris. There. You learn something every day, don't you? Well, the Tilburg municipality acquired the forest back in 1952, and much conservation work to restore it to its original 18th century design took place between 1989 and 2010. Many of the original paths, which were a bit overgrown, have been restored to their full width and glory, and that's what these athletes are taking advantage of here today. And none more so at the moment than Jesse Fockenrud, who is pouring it on here with 10 minutes on the clock. We're getting towards the mid-race section. He's following those lead bikes who are doing a great job. By the way, this meeting is organised by the International Warandeloop Foundation with over 250 volunteers giving tons of time to it over the last few weeks. It's a fantastic organisation. The event was first held back in 1956, and in 2008 the 50th anniversary was celebrated. One or two had to be missed for a variety of reasons. Of course, there was no race, for example, because of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. Well, I'm not sure if that gap has grown or if it isn't closing a little bit. Fockenrud here has got to double down and work hard through this middle section. And then once you get into the final third, well, psychologically, you can sort of almost feel the finish coming at you. And you can push really hard, dig very, very deep. But how big is that gap? Let's see. Well, it's about an 8-second gap he's got there. That is pretty significant. He's going tremendously well. And nobody in that chasing pack, where they're tightly bunched, seems to want to take on the responsibility of attacking the gap and trying to close down on Fockenrud there. Well, he's a 7:55 3,000 metre runner. He's got reasonable strength, as I said. 3:37. He ran for 1,500 metres last year in 2024. And I suppose, if anything, his stamina is a little bit under question because he's only run 13:58 for 5,000. There are plenty of athletes in this race who've run much quicker than that. So with 12 minutes on the clock, nearly 12 and a half minutes on the clock, it's the second half of the race that is going to ask questions of this man. He's a lovely looking mover, moving really well, but this is where he's got to keep focused, keep relaxed, but start turning the screw a little bit and making them work for that gap. Fockenrud goes through 3 of the 6 laps, 12:35. He's got a 7-second gap, as I said. Stan Skipperen, Juan Zeiderland, Verkouteren, Abdirahman Mohammed, Nick Lemmink back in 6th place, Frank Futselaar back in 9th. Yeah, 119 is the man in black. That is Stan Skipperen. He's doing quite a lot of that work at the front of that chasing pack. But this would be a fabulous run from Fockenrud. What an improvement it would be. He's getting a shout there from the man in purple. I don't know if that's his coach or a club or family member. But he's being told exactly what's going on behind. And that pack, how many in that pack behind? About 10, I would suggest. And then in the third pack, there's probably about 8 or 9. So he's got 18 or 19 people working very hard to attack the gap between him and them through this second half. And now with the nearly 14 minutes on the clock, we get towards the business end of this race. Jesse Fockenrud, the 23-year-old Dutchman, has been very, very brave. My word, did he blast off from the gun, and within the space of a minute, maybe 90 seconds, he'd built up a 30 or 40 metre gap. Here's that form. He's tall, long-legged, and clearly in fine form. And he could be on his way to winning the 2025 Dutch cross-country title. But there's a long way to go yet. Will he falter? Is his stamina sufficient to hang on to this? Those are the big question marks. Or will one of the others push on from the pack? Because one thing you have to remember is that when there's a pack running together like that, it's not a coincidence that they're all in exactly the same state of effort, the same feeling. Some of them are running harder than others, and some of them in that pack are sort of being fooled by staying in the pack instead of maximising or running optimally at the effort that would suit them. And I think now, as we're into the second half of the race, it's time for one or two of those in that pack who are feeling good and who are cruising to some degree to start kicking on and trying to close that gap. Because there's no doubt that Fockenrud will be quick over the final few hundred metres. He's a 1:49.800 guy. As I said, 3:37 for 1,500. That's worth about 3:55 for a mile. And they don't want to leave it till the very last few minutes to try and close him down. Now, is that gap closing a little bit? Is Fockenrud faltering as we're in this third quarter, effectively, of the race? Like to get a shot where we can see the gap between him and the chasing pack. We know it was 7 seconds a few minutes ago. There's only so many opportunities for him to be able to turn around and glance at the gap himself, because there's so many twists and turns. Drops into a little dip there and then up a slope. The race hasn't always been held here in the Outer Waranda. Back in 2004 and 5, the races were staged in Liège Park to the east of Tilburg in preparation for the 2005 European Cross Country Championships. And then back in 2017-2018, the races were staged in Beekse Park nearby in preparation for the 2018 European Cross Country Championships. They love their cross country running in these parts. Great tradition in Netherlands and Belgium, of course, the Low Countries for cross country. And there he goes, 16 and a half minutes on the clock. And 1:04, Nick Lemmink now in the headband. Looks like he might be pushing on at the front of that chasing pack. What is the gap? This is where we can get a good idea of what the gap is at the moment. And the pack behind looks to me like it's just beginning to break up a little bit. Yes, Lemmink chasing hard. He has broken away from the pack. Mind you, just counted that gap between Fockenrud and Lemmink there, and I reckon it's still 7 seconds. Lemmink looking strong, isn't he? He must have been listening. He's broken away from that pack, pushing hard. Nobody's gone with him, which is interesting. 5 athletes there in the chasing group. 12.005 is still there. Verkouteren. He's in third place. But here goes Fockenrud. And Lemmink on the charge. And I think that gap is closing. I don't think that's 7 seconds now. I think it's 6. And Verkouteren maybe has been woken up there by the rest of them as well. Also in there and working hard, I just saw Kaz Kopmels, 25-year-old Dutch athlete. Well, Fockenrud will have thought about this race, will have thought about his race tactics. He'll have discussed them with his coach. That gap is now down, I reckon, to about 5 or 6 seconds. I'm trying to figure out if the rest of the pack are sort of moving at the same pace as Nick Lemmink. Yeah, 5 seconds. It is closing. After 4 of 6 laps, the gap is 5 seconds. Verkouteren in third. Fissahatsion is in fourth. Now, Fissahatsion won here 2 years ago. Senai Amlason Fissahatsion. There he is, wearing 12014. He's in third place at the moment. Fissahatsion, the Norwegian 29-year-old, he won here 2 years ago in a very quick time. It was the second fastest ever time, 29.10. Remember, I told you that the course record is 29.04 by Wilson Chalal some 24 years ago. The Kenyan was just 19 at the time. Well, Fissahatsion knows this course, and he's back in, fourth place at the moment, behind Fockenrud and Lemmink and Verkouteren. All these legs enjoying really good conditions underfoot, fast running. And frankly, I know this is nearly 10k this race, but if you haven't been doing a degree of speed work, some good fartlek, some long reps on the track maybe, then you will struggle with the tempo here today, because this is fast. For relatively speaking, for each of these athletes, it is quite challenging to keep the leg turnover nice and high. The World Cross Country, of course, is coming. It's just a few weeks away on the 10th of January in Tallahassee, Florida. Very, very early. Normally the World Cross Country, well, I say normally, traditionally the World Cross Country is in March, mid to late March. The temperature just 7 degrees. Well, it says wind speed, but I think in the thick of the forest there is zero wind. It's a glorious, glorious morning. Many of these athletes taking full advantage of that. The challenge for many of them is, though, that they are going absolutely flat out. They're redlining. Because of the way Fockenrud laid out his stall so early, going out hard, he has dragged out the tempo of this race, the speed of this race, to the maximum. And it means that gaps appeared early on. And look at this. Nick Lemmink almost closed up on Fockenrud. They look very close together to me. It was down to 5 seconds a couple of minutes ago. What is it now? Lemmink, the 27-year-old, looks like he's judged this to perfection. He's by far the quickest over 5,000 metres, and he takes the lead now. 21 minutes on the clock. And Lemmink takes over the lead for the first time from Fockenrud, back in second place. He'd led from the gun for 21 minutes. But now this pair maybe can start to work together to keep her clear of the pack. The challenge for Fockenrud here now is to hang on to the coattails of Nick Lemmink. Lemmink, remember, third here last year, only 17th in 2023, but he's a little bit stronger, a little bit wiser now. He is a good athlete, was 28th in the European Cross Country Championships in Antalya, Turkey, in last year. In December last year, I was at that championships. It was a fast course where, of course, Jakob Ingebrigtsen was the winner yet again. Ingebrigtsen, of course, only just getting back to a reasonable level of fitness come the World Championships in Tokyo after a lot of Achilles problems. But these two working together now, I think, and how big is the gap behind them? This will be really telling. It'll be useful to get a shot where we can see how big the gap is behind Nick Lemmink and Jesse Fockenrud. There it is. Now this is where we get a great perspective. The crowd's gathering now with 22 and a half minutes on the clock. We're coming towards the real business end of this race, into the final quarter very shortly. And each of these two leaders has a different challenge. For Nick Lemmink, having passed Fockenrud, is to turn the screw when he knows that his opponent is tiring and build a gap. Get away from him. Don't be his pacemaker and let him kick past you with his great middle distance speed. And for Fockenrud, correspondingly, is to hang on to the coattails of Lemmink, maybe stay in touch with him to try and sprint at the finish, but also get dragged away from this pack. And that gap has grown, there's no doubt about it. Fisehatsion, the defending, champion, the man who won in 2023, back in 5th place at the moment. Lemmink trying to get that gap on Fockenrud, and what a good job he's doing of it. Fockenrud has a little glance across, and that gap is pretty big. Let's count it. I reckon. Ooh, that's about 13 or 14 seconds between the leading pair and the chasing pack, and that might be an insurmountable gap. 23 and a half minutes on the clock has gone by now. They've got about 6 minutes of hard running to come. And Nick Lemmink, well, he's lapping people now. What a run this has been from him. He's already selected, by the way, for the European team, for the Dutch team at those European Cross-Country Championships in Lagoa. Nick Lemmink here, just putting the finishing touches. 24:01 with a lap to go. Jesse Fockenrud, just 3 seconds behind. Fockenrud looking tired there, isn't he? The head is back a little bit. This gentleman has been lapped, by the way. 128, that's Boyd Pienna, the 22-year-old. And the rest of them coming through. 109 is Stefan Nielsen. Now that's interesting. Nielsen, the 22-year-old from the Sifla club, was the Olympic finalist last year at 1,500 metres, a semi-finalist in Tokyo a few weeks ago at the World Championships, was only 25th last year. And this is fabulous from Nielsen. There he is, in 3rd place. tall figure, moves well, just like Fockenrud. He's a 3:49 miler. He's got fabulous speed endurance. 13:23 for 5,000 he ran in Nice earlier on last summer. And bizarrely, he's a steeplechaser as well. He's run 8:20 for the steeplechase. That was in last July. So Lemick 24:01. He's getting away now. Top left of your picture, you can see he's building a good gap over Fockenrud. But Fockenrud, on this final circuit now, has got to dig very, very deep to try and stay clear of that pack. With athletes of the calibre of Nielsen back in third place, he's got to be scared of what might come at him. Here is Nick Lemmink just a couple of minutes ago. The first athlete to be lapped there. Nielsen has great championship form, great championship temperament. Twice he's been European under-23 champion at 1,500 metres in 2023, and he retained it last summer, 2025. 3 times a national champion. Bizarrely, as I said, he's a good steeplechase. He actually took the silver medal in the European under-23 steeplechase as well last summer at the same championships. But he's having a fabulous run here today. Last year, Nielsen, who's currently in third place, was 25th, and he was 90 seconds behind Niels Laros, his great compatriot and rival at 1,500 metres. He won the National Indoor Championships 1,500 this year, did Stefan Nielsen. And I know plenty of his Sifla clubmates will be roaring him on here to try and close down on Jesse Fockenrud in second place. Well, here they come. Now, what's the gap? Nick Lemmink is away, and it looks like he's built a good gap here. Looking really strong. He's judged this wonderfully. The third placer last year, surely now is heading for victory. What an improvement curve. 17th 2 years ago, third last year, and maybe the winner today at this 68th edition of the Warandeloop in Tilburg. It's a fabulous run from Lemmink. He's judged it to perfection so far. He was 28th in the European cross country last year, as I said. He is already selected for Lagoa, this year's European cross country, in 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks' time today, down in Portugal, where it'll be a little bit warmer than 7 degrees. I think temperatures down there at the moment are around the sort of 14 to 17 range. Moves nicely, doesn't he, Lemmink? Really good balance. Gets a good look at these corners, these twists and turns. And Lemmink now, with nearly 28 minutes on the clock, has only got a minute or two to go. He can up his game here now, turn the screw a little bit more. It's going to be a comfortable victory for Lemmink. There you can see Fockenrud, and he looks safe for second place. They haven't been able to close him down. Quite a gap between Lemmink and Fockenrud. Now we'll figure out that gap in seconds. And this is where Fockenrud has really got to be focused. Back in second place there, central picture, because there will be a surge and a charge from that pack behind. I don't think they've got time to catch him in the next minute or so. And certainly nobody's going to catch Nick Lemmink here. What a run it's been. It's going to be quick too. The course record is 29:04 from 2001, 24 years ago. What can Lemmink do here today? He's about to conclude the 5th and final long lap here. 9,875 metres of running behind him. There's the big gap. Nobody in sight as he goes through there. And here's the battle for the minor places. It's very tight indeed. Stefan Nielsen in third place. That's Fockenrud going through, and a nice big gap behind him. I think he's safe for second. What a run from Fockenrud. Probably the best cross-country performance of his life. The crowd's loving it all around this course. There are spectators. In some places, they're thickly bunched. In others, less so. But here he is. Lemmink then, asking the crowd to support him, because there's been a massive performance from Nick Lemmink. Absolutely brilliant. Wins it very comfortably indeed. 29:46 unofficially. A very, very impressive run from Lemmink. And in second place, the long-time leader in the early stages crosses the line there in 30 minutes exactly, I reckon. Jesse Fockenrud, so about a 13 or 14 second gap. 109 coming through. Nielsen takes third place. That's a great run from Nielsen, the 1500 metre specialist. 13 seconds was the gap between Lemick and Fockenrud. Nielsen takes third, a little bit further down. And the rest of them out pouring across the line just outside 13 minutes. 29.46 is confirmed as the winning time. And if we look at the winning time of Laurus last year, 29.35. Well, he was 11 seconds quicker. And Fisehadsion back in 2023 was 29.10. He was super fast. Here's the winner. Well, my Dutch is not great, I have to admit, so I'll keep talking, my apologies. But Nick Lemick there, very, very impressive indeed. And that is exactly the send-off he needs for Lagoa. In the Dutch colours, he'll be racing there in the Algarve in 2 weeks' time. And that's a pretty impressive win, isn't it? There's the lesser lights, 10th, Tahar, Tobler, Sogia, Lederman, Howard, Hofer, Skipperen, Scherps, Kopmel, Sansom. Ruben Sansom might be pretty disappointed with that one. He was 7th here last year, goodness me, and he finished in 19th place today. 28-year-old man from Maastricht, but, well, Nick Lemick, just superb. Already has his ticket booked for Lagoa, but he is Dutch champion this year. 109 is Stefan Nielsen in 4th place. Juan Zeiderlaan. And 12.14 coming home there is Fisehadsion, I think, in 5th place. 32 minutes on the clock. Still good running for almost 10k through the forests of the Oude Veranda. Well, who'd have thought back in 1956 that this event would grow and grow into a 3-day festival of racing that involves thousands of athletes, youngsters, races galore through yesterday and this earlier on this morning, and likewise races for age group, adults, veterans. If you look at the timetable for the yesterday and today in particular, there were some races on Friday evening, but yesterday and today, dozens and dozens of category races. I mean, it's a wonderfully organised event, my word. But in recent years, a rule has been introduced where only athletes from Europe are invited. Gives them a chance to shine, and I don't think that's a bad thing. East Africans dominate 99% of races around the around the international circuit in track, road and country. But this was an opportunity for Jesse Fockenrud to lay out his wares, and when you think he is really a middle distance specialist, this was a superb run from him, really gutsy run. He led for about 20 minutes. I think Nick Lemick, one of the pre-race favourites, took the lead at 21 minutes and then pushed on to win eventually by 13 seconds, I think it was, at the finish. But Fockenrud made them all work for it. He stretched them out, and there'll be plenty of fellas in there who will know full well that they've had a tough old race here today. Lemick, there he is, second to left in this shot, mid-race. Judged it to perfection, just cruising along there in the headband. Well, that's one of the very few wet patches on the course, because conditions underfoot have been quite superb. Didn't affect Lemick. He made the rostrum yet again, and the top spot on the rostrum after third last year. His time, 29.46. He'd only run 29.03 on the track. But as I said, this is almost track conditions here. This is where Lemick had taken the lead at 21 minutes. And he built up a very solid lead and a winning margin of 13 seconds by the finish over Jesse Fockenrud. Fockenrud, of course, will have run himself into a spot in the Dutch squad with that second spot. Mind-blowing, yeah. Great run from Lemmink. In the prime of life, the 27-year-old. He's a 7:49 3,000 metre runner. He's got great speed endurance. And then 109, 108 is Stefan Nielsen and Juan Zeidelon, respectively. 1:20.14. That was Fisehadsion back in 5th place, the Norwegian, former Eritrean, who won here back in 2023. Had to settle for 5th place today.